Chapter 43, Not a Perfect World. I made up my mind that I would leave Japan without telling him. Some things are better unsaid. I know that the other members of the Lee clan would be so disappointed in me, but I don't care. Maybe alone I truly wish happiness for Syaoran. That's why, after 2 weeks, I decided to return to Hong Kong and not spoil his current happiness. But I think I fell into a trap. I don't know how much time has passed nor where I am. All I know is I'm still somewhere in Japan, but nobody knows that. The last thing I remember is running and running, the sound of a snap and a sharp pain in my right ankle, and a cold, silvery, unearthly pair of eyes leering down on me as a ripping pain reverberated through my body. It's cold and dark in here. It's okay. Syaoran would find me. He'll come find me. He always has. Maylin, where are you? You, answer me, me. Kai called out. His voice echoed down the dark alley. He gripped Maylin's silver bracelet tightly in his hands until the intricate engravings decorating the narrow bracelet embedded into his palm. Wrapped up in his thoughts, Kai was unaware that someone had been creeping up behind his back until a cold hand on his throat and a tight strangler's grip. Never had he been so completely foolish as to let his mind slip while in such ghetto districts of the city during nighttime. Yet he did not panic. Years in the streets taught him how to handle people who attacked from behind. Slamming his elbow into the assaulter's stomach easily loosened him from the grip. The attacker grasped Kai's black shirt, readying to punch him. With speed and agility, Kai leaped up into a stack of boxes with speed, which he had always reserved for emergencies. He even ignored the ripping sound of his shirt as the assaulter made a desperate grab at him. My, who is this? Drawled the attacker, who was joined by 3 more masked men. Isn't it our favorite 603? 0603, my criminal number. How do these people recognize me? I'm in disguise. Massaging his throat to get rid of the choking feeling, Kai stared down the gangsters from his advantageous position on top of the piled wooden cartons. They could be any of the number of criminals he had encountered in his days. Despite Kai's excellent night vision, the buildings on either side of him cast ghastly shadows, making it impossible to decipher the features of the man who had tried to strangle him, especially since a tight black mask stretched over the man's face. Quickly, Kai calculated a plan of escape. That he was an expert at. He prayed that Maylin was safe. Somehow, her safety felt like his responsibility because he had been the last one to see her off. Had he been a little more persistent and a little less daunted by Maylin's hostile attitude towards him, he could have safely escorted her to the airport, despite his senses warning him last Friday that Maylin might get into trouble if he let her go off on her own. He had ignored it. Observing his surroundings, he frowned. What had Maylin been doing in such a dangerous district anyway, when she should have been heading to the airport? I knew I should have driven her myself. Still, how can I be thinking about her when I'm probably in a worse scrape I've been in since the police were chasing me this summer? Don't tell me you're scared, the masked man said. Come down and fight us. Out of habit, Kai reached for his knives that he always kept handy. Then he remembered that he had foolishly removed all weapons from his body, including his pocket knives, because Maylin told him to. Of course, had it been a few months ago, he would have had no problem beating the living daylight out of his foes without a guilty conscience. Yet, Just last week, he had promised Melanie not to fight anymore. He meant to keep it. What did it matter if he didn't have his knives? He had his wits. Regaining his composure, Kai stated suavely, "You must be mistaking me for someone else." "Nah, I can't mistake you," the man with the mask replied. He pointed a leather-gloved hand at Kai. "No one has that magician's cunning as you do, son of Lucifer. You are under my hands now." With a bored expression, Kai asked, "Really?" "I'm glad I found you. It's time you settled your debt," the man continued. Slowly, he peeled off a corner of the mask to reveal a deep, ugly scar down his cheek. It seemed to be the result of a nasty knife cut, pretty recent. "You did this, 603. Remember?" Shaking his head, Kai said, "I don't remember all right. Now move it. I'm busy." How could he remember? It wasn't like he had only been in 1 or 2 fights, though he didn't particularly remember drawing an unnecessary blood, especially recently. In fact, now that he thought about it, he hadn't fought at all recently. "Just tell me, did you see a girl around here last Friday? She has long black hair, amber eyes, a flashy temper." We may or may not have," the man replied, to aggravate Kai, clearly revealing that he did know. "We'll tell you after you face us." "I don't want to fight," Kai stated. "Just tell me where she is." "Attack him," the masked man commanded. Immediately, his cronies lunged forward. "Damn it, I don't want to dirty my hands," Kai reiterated. He had made a contract, and he meant to keep it this time. "I promised Melanie not to fight, so I won't. I promised to become an admirable person." Melanie's sorrowful words were vivid in his mind. "Well, you always say big words and do little to back them up. I don't have much reason to believe you after being disappointed so many times." He couldn't disappoint her, Sakura, Syaoran, nor any of those people who trusted him anymore. He still had that much honor and integrity left in him. What could he do? Fight back or get beaten? A rough hand dragged him down to the ground. Though Kaido Magician's instinct was to fight back, Kai pictured Melanie shaking her head reproachfully and saying, "I didn't expect anything from you in the first place, but I knew never to trust your words, Kaido Magician." He grimaced as he felt a blow on his stomach. Another, then another, and yet another. Yet he did not attempt to punch back, though he knew he could easily win them. He was alone. He had faced many more menacing, stronger foes. He didn't. "Ha! Bastard! Why aren't you fighting back? Are you a wimp?" the man with the mask chided. "Maybe I am," Kai replied, wiping a streak of blood from his forehead and struggling to stand up. He hadn't been beaten this badly since when? At least not since he took the title of Kaido Magician. "It's no fun then. We'll hand over your valuables, then we'll spare you," the man said, beckoning the others to step back. "Tell me where the girl is," Kai demanded. "I will after you hand over your valuables, since you refuse to fight." Imagine the most skillful thief of the world being robbed by a couple of street pickpockets, Kai thought, seeing the irony of things. Disgusted, he stripped himself of his watch, rings, earrings, cellular phone, MP3 player, pocket computer, sunglasses, and even his motorcycle keys, throwing them on the ground. After all, it was better to give up his possessions than give up the last trace of honor, or so he should think. All the while, he kept repeating to himself to keep his temper. Once he lost, he didn't know what he would do. "Wait! The chain around your neck," the man reminded. Instinctively, Kai clenched the oval locket in his hands. There, I gave you everything else. Now tell me where the girl is. Not until you hand over everything, the gang leader replied, holding out his gloved hand. Tell me where she is before I really lose my temper, Kai repeated testily. You don't seem to understand plain words, the masked man sneered, leaping to Kai with a knife in one hand and groped Kai's locket with the other and yanked, snapping the chain. Ha! You're nothing but a pushover. Why should I tell you where that brat is, even if I knew, fool? Why, the notorious thief of the night is nothing but a coward, his comrades chided. Probably just a second-rate thief blown up by the media, the first man added saucily. A good-for-nothing troublemaker. Trembling with cold fury, Kai thought, enough is enough. Forget about any silly promises to Melanie. I can't help being what I am. With the venom he was holding back, Kai lashed out his iron fist, punching the masked man square in the cheek. The man let out a painful yelp as he collapsed onto the ground. Then Kai reached over and tried to loosen the man's grip on his locket to retrieve it. Together they toppled over to the ground, and the man dangerously waved the knife near Kai's head. With his free hand, Kai gripped the man's right wrist, and with a quick flick of his hands, the knife was now in Kai's hold. In a matter of seconds, Kai had the advantage, pinning his attacker down to the ground, knife pointed at the man's throat. Repeat what you said before, Kai said through gritted teeth. It was hard keeping his knife pointed steadily, pressed against the man's throat, without actually puncturing the skin, when one part of him was screaming that what he was doing was wrong, but that he shouldn't be threatening this masked man, while the other part was outraged at being insulted, challenged, and beaten. You were holding back after all, the man said tauntily and gasped, trying to buy time. I thought so. Well, kill me now. You told me the first offense was scarred for life, and the second would be my life. I'm a thief, not a murderer, Kai replied grimly. Now, just give me back my locket and show me where the Chinese girl is. Then I will let you all go. The masked man stared up when Kai didn't press the knife blade any closer to his neck, stunned, then grimaced. Desperately, he flung the locket, which he figured to be quite valuable to his comrades, and shouted, Run with it! Catching the silver locket, his followers ran off docilely. Taking the opportunity to distract Kai, the masked man knocked the knife out of Kai's hand and escaped from his reach. You're not what you used to be, magician of the night, the man commented dryly, cracking his neck. I believe you won't even hurt a fly. Well, I guess I'll consider my revenge as being paid by your precious little trinket. Someone will be very pleased to have it. That and seeing you beaten up for good satisfies my hunger. The girl should be around here somewhere. We'll meet again, 603. Us criminal roads cross often. Glaring furiously at the masked man who quickly fled, Kai restrained himself from doing anything he might regret later on. He didn't even chase after them. It was not worth the consequences. It was more important to find Melanie first. I promised Melanie. I promised her I won't fight anymore, yet I did. I fought again. I would have killed that man. I really would have. No, I wouldn't have. I always fought for self-defense, never for the sake of blood. Carefully, he picked up his possessions and dusted them. Stupid low-class thieves. They forgot to take my other stuff when they ran off with my locket. After Figuring the wiping the dusty sunglasses on his grimy, sweat-soaked shirt would be useless, he readjusted them on the bridge of his nose, piffled at the bleary vision. Absent-mindedly, he toyed with the ring on his finger. Then wearily, he leaned against his motorcycle, gazing up at the grimy buildings shielding him on both sides. If I knew it was this hard to reform, I wouldn't have attempted it in the first place. Later, I'll have to think of a way to take back my locket. I didn't want to meddle with that sort of business anymore, but I guess retrieving something that rightfully belongs to me is less offensive than beating someone up. The masked man said, "Someone shall be very pleased." That game seems to be working for someone bossing them around. I wonder who hates me so much to send his cronies on me. His body was bruised, his skull ached, his stomach felt nauseous, and overall, he felt wretched for allowing the assaulters to get away with his possession. It was something that had never been heard of before. Yet that indicated how much he changed. Had it been only a month ago, he wouldn't have allowed such a thing to happen. Firstly, he wouldn't have allowed someone to creep up from behind him. Secondly, he would have fought back gladly. And thirdly, he would never have hesitated or gotten distracted. Furiously, Kai kicked the trash can, leaving a dent. Then he calmed himself by repeating, "I need to find Melanie." Just then the wind howled, and he felt the presence of a dark force. "Keep an eye on it," he told his parrot, who appeared seemingly out of nowhere. Carefully, Kai eyed the run-down cement buildings lined up around the alley. Breathing in deeply, he shut his eyes and listened to the wailing night gust blowing down the street. Intuitively, he walked to the building vertical from him and followed the crumbling, creaking stairs to the basement. It was natural for him to walk in pitch black without tripping over. Finally, he came to a single, rusty metal door. Debating whether to pick the lock or kick the door open, he chose the latter. It would relieve some stress. The door opened with relative ease in one kick, and Kai walked in. "Melanie?" A single, bare light bulb screwed in the center of the filthy room, dimly lit with orange light. A small, barred window too high up to reach was the only source of ventilation. In the far corner were a bundle of rags on which a young girl crouched. Tentatively, Kai walked up. "Melanie?" Carefully, he bent over the girl, 10 or so, with her jet black hair half unraveled from its buns. She was swaddled in clothes rather large for her, and her round face was streaked with dirt. Her right leg was skewed awkwardly. "Melanie, wake up!" Had he been in a different situation, he would have laughed. It seemed as if Melanie had been attacked by the same force that attacked Sakura. That explained why he'd found the silver bracelet on the ground. It must have slipped off her wrist once she was made younger and therefore smaller. Leaning closer, he could hear that Melanie's breathing was ragged. Gently, he reached out for her. For a second, she shrank back warily as her feline, red-amber eyes adjusted to the dim light. Then she realized that it was Kai kneeling beside her, looking worried. It was the first time she saw such concern from Kai. A sudden flow of relief swept over her. "Kai? Is that you?" "Melanie, is that you?" Kai replied, trying to hide how concerned he'd been. "You look like an elementary school kid to me." Ignoring Kai's sarcasm, Melanie flung her arms around Kai's neck. "Oh, you don't know how glad I am to see you." "Of course I do," Kai said, heaving a sigh of relief. "Hey, you're joking me." Did you come looking for me?" Melanie asked, unable to hold back a sniffle. How did you find me? I was so scared. I thought I was trapped in here forever. I'm sorry, Kai. I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you instead of stubbornly insisted on you going to the airport on my own.
There now. It's all right. You're safe now. I'm here now. I found you,
Kai reassured, stroking Malin's head comfortably. At these words of kindness, Malin began sobbing out loud. She had expected Kai to laugh at her or scorn her for her silliness. Hiccuping, she said, I was so scared. I thought no one would know that I was in here. I've never been so terrified in my life. Who would have thought that there would come a day when this fiery Chinese girl would fling herself around his neck, scared and sobbing hysterically? Kai thought wryly.
Even more scared than when I kidnapped you?
I wasn't scared then, Malin replied flatly. I knew you were not a bad person.
True. I was more scared of you and your rather rash temper, Kai said.
Shut up. You don't know how much Malin gulped.
Shh, it's okay, Kai said softly. I understand everything. You don't have to say it.
No, you don't understand, Malin thought. But thank you, Kai. Thank you for trying to.
Hey, I should feel thrilled that a damsel in distress is sobbing on my shoulders, but truthfully it feels creepy, like I'm hugging a younger sibling or something, Kai joked. What happened anyway?
Shut up, Malin retorted, immediately dropping her arms from Kai's neck. I don't know myself. I remember that I felt something fishy on the way to the airport, so I got off the bus and found myself walking down a strange street. Then I felt a throbbing pain through my body, and I don't remember anything since Friday afternoon. When I woke up again, I found myself in this dark basement in this shrunken form. I don't know how many days have passed. I don't know what time it is. I don't even know where I am now.
And you, with your impatience, didn't try to escape? Kai asked quizzically. I'm surprised.
I tried, but... Malin gazed at her right leg, swollen and discolored. Frowning, Kai examined it. From the looks of it, it seemed to be a bad sprain, possibly a broken bone, concluding from the strange angle that her leg was twisted in. If it had been left like that untreated for several days, infection could have spread. Not wanting to alarm Malin, he kept to himself that the break might be quite serious. I don't remember clearly, but I have a faint recollection of jumping off a wall and landing on it awkwardly right before I was knocked out, Malin explained, letting out a whimper as Kai pressed her knee to test the extent of the injury. I probably broke it then.
You can't just leave it like that, Kai said. I'll make you a temporary cast. Do you mind if I use this for a bandage? He held up a cotton shirt which he had took from Malin's duffel bag, lying next to Malin's feet. Malin nodded. Deftly, Kai tore the shirt into long strips. Then he formed some crude, straight stilts shaped from the wooden boxes heaped up beside the basement room. It's going to hurt, so just put up with it for a few minutes, okay? Kai said. I'll try and make it as fast as possible. I treated my own broken bones when I was a criminal, unable to go to the hospital like a regular citizen. So I know what I'm doing.
Bracing herself, Malin nodded. Her leg hurt too much to protest otherwise. Carefully, Kai held stilts parallel to her leg to straighten the broken bone. Malin bit her lips until they bled, holding back a scream. Holding the stilts in place, Kai tightly wound the bandage around her feet, up her ankle and calf, stopping just below her knee. Tucking the loose end of the bandage into the cast, Kai said,
There, finished. That wasn't so bad, was it?
Face pale and clammy with perspiration, Malin nodded.
Liar,
Kai said, patting her bandaged leg.
When I set my bones, I used to holler out with all my might. You're really brave, Malin, not letting out a single squeak.
No,
I'm not brave at all. Only an idiot like me would be caught in such a scrape, Melin said, examining her leg. It ached, yet she would not admit that much to Kai. How can I ever go back to Hong Kong in this form? I think I'm only 10 or so now. Even worse, imagine going back to Syaoran in this state. Don't worry, Sakura's in a worse position than you. Sunday, on her way to King Penguin Park to meet Syaoran. Mind you, she was 6 hours late. She got caught by that dark force, and now she's approximately 5. Kai reassured. She feels even more foolish than you do right now. Really? Melin smiled slightly. 5 years old? Yep. Well, you ready to go back now? Kai asked, or do you want to rest a little longer? Uneasily, Melin said, I think it's not quite safe around here. I feel like the same force that attacked me is trying to lure you in and trap you as well. I feel much safer once we're back at home. Worrying for me, are you? Kai asked mischievously. No, it's not like that. Melin blushed furiously. I know. Well, here, get on my back. You can't walk with that leg. I have my motorcycle outside. Back towards Melin, Kai knelt down. Who would have thought that the great Kaido magician would be carrying a 10-year-old on his back? Melin giggled, looking on the bright side of being back in her bratty child state. Who would have thought that the great Melin-sama would allow to be carried on a criminal's back? Kai laughed, hoisting Melin's light frame up on his back. Only when Melin couldn't see his face did he let his careless smile drop. A thin, lonely wail let out by the wind indicated to him that something was amiss. Cradling Melin in his arms, Kai speeded his motorcycle back to the apartment. Mei-wen-chan, are you okay? A childish voice asked. Blinking, Melin realized that she was on Kai's back in the warmth of Syaoran's living room. She didn't even remember the motorcycle ride back home, having fallen asleep. Gently, Kai laid her down on her own bed in Syaoran's apartment. Melin, what happened? Syaoran asked Kai, looking harried at the sight of a 10-year-old Melin with a crude cast on her leg. So Melin was also attacked by the age. Kai, where'd you find her? Long story, Kai replied, collapsing onto a chair. Goodness, what happened to you, Kaido-kun? Little Sakura asked, craning her neck to see Kai. Not only was he coated with dust from head to toe, but his black t-shirt was ripped in several places, his entire left sleeve being ripped off, and his lips were swollen and bleeding. A large purplish green had formed on his cheek also. Frowning as she took a better look at Kai in proper light, Melin grimaced. Wow, you look like you're in worse condition than me. You fought? Syaoran demanded. Kai remained silent. Just leave him alone. At least he brought back Mei-wen-chan, Sakura said. Picking up the 5-year-old Sakura curiously, Melin sat her on the bed, then burst out laughing. Kai was right. You're in a worse condition than I am, Sakura. Pouting, Sakura replied, I know you don't know how much everyone rubs it into me. Oh, what shall we do, Sakura? Melin asked. She sank back on the soft bed sheets. It was a relief after sleeping on bundles of rags for 4 days. Her stomach rumbled since she hadn't had a decent meal in 3 or 4 days. She had lived off bits of snacks she had packed in her duffel bag, along with a bottle of water. Had Kai not found her? I'll go bring you a late dinner, Syaoran said, standing up and leaving the room, carrying Sakura out with him, who kicked out, protesting. Stop carrying me around like a doll! Shh, I think they need to be left alone for a second, Syaoran whispered, setting Sakura down on the living room sofa. At this, Sakura quieted, staring up at Syaoran with a puzzled look on her face. Left alone with Melin, Kai looked down at his feet. I'm sorry, Melin. What for? Malin asked, fiddling with a stuffed animal. I guess I broke my promise to you after all. I did fight again, and I enjoyed it. I guess I disappointed you again, didn't I? It doesn't sound right to hear you apologize, Malin said, peering up at the young man who looked so broken and beaten. For the second time, she felt helpless. Yet she began to understand that Kai looked upon her to guide him in the right direction. Why, she had no idea, yet she should do everything within her power to help him through these times of hardship. I guess I'm no good at reforming. Stupid in me to even attempt it in the beginning, Kai said, waiting for Malin to berate him. Instead, Malin commented lightly. Rather than someone who got into a fight, you look like someone beaten up. I thought the Kaido magician never lost to anyone. You don't mind that I broke my promise once again? Kai asked slowly, surprised at Malin's genial tone. I do mind, but if you're asking me if I'm angry, no, Malin said briefly. But Kai fingered his bruised cheek in bewilderment. I heard a voice from outside through the window of the basement, Malin said softly. He said that he won't fight no matter what. That was you, wasn't it? Ashamed, Kai knelt down by the bedside. But I fought anyway. What counts is the effort, Kai, Malin told him. It's how hard you tried that's important. There's no guarantee that the results would always be successful, yet at least you have the satisfaction of knowing that you did your best. Strange philosophy, Kai murmured. I used to think it was the results that count, but does that mean that you'll give me another chance? He looked up hopefully. As many as you need, if you show me effort and improvement, Malin said, smiling brightly. At first, she had mixed feelings about her former kidnapper and ex-criminal, yet she realized that this person wasn't a bad person at all. Grinning, Kai, from his kneeling position, swept a grand bow and presented Malin a crimson rose. Oh, merci, mademoiselle. I really appreciate your benevolence. Shut up, Kai. Je ne comprends pas français. Blushing furiously, Malin stared down at her hands. Then she let out a gasp of dismay. Hey, my bracelet! My bracelet's gone! She groped around, frantically searching for it. You certainly don't mean the bracelet that I locked onto your wrist, Kai asked skeptically. Malin slapped her forehead. It must have slipped off when I was shrunk by the age. What shall I do? I'll never find it again. Raising an eyebrow, Kai asked, weren't you always complaining how the bracelet annoyed you so much and how you would love to take it off? Ears turning red, Malin mumbled, well, I got kind of fond of it, and it's rather pretty, despite the fact that there was a microchip attached to it by a stalker. Funny girl, Kai ejaculated. I thought you'd be glad to be free of it. Shut up. Malin drew the blankets over her head and shut her eyes. Still chuckling, Kai turned off the lights. Once engulfed in darkness, Malin's heart lurched. The unwanted thought that had been lingering in her mind for the past weeks emerged again. Her skull pounded and her breathing grew ragged. Never had she felt more wretched in her life. Both Syaoran and Sakura are not at school today, Rika noted the next day. Everyone was extremely grateful for having Monday off as a treat. Meanwhile, the school administration was yet confused why there had suddenly been a power failure the previous day, yet kept their thoughts to themselves. Though the math teacher suspected it had something to do with the computer genius and truant Mizuki Kai, she had no evidence.
It's really coincidental how they always miss school on the same days, Nako noted.
Kai-kun's not here either, Tomeo noted, trying to divert the attention from Sakura and Syaoran.
He is. I saw him at the principal's office early this morning. Though true, he usually never comes to school in the first place, Nako asked. Hey, did you see the headline news this morning? It was about the Kaido magician again. Isn't it so exciting? He's back. Oh, come on. There's more important things on the news, like the earthquakes that are occurring all over Japan, Aki interrupted. Since when are you so concerned about nature? Nako inquired. Any male celebrity that takes the spotlight is insignificant in Aki-kun's eyes. Chiharu giggled. From acting as Aki's aunt, Lady Capulet, in the production for the past half year and the few weeks of journalism club, her impression of Aki had completely changed. At first, she thought him rather handsome and nice, but in the end, she concluded that she liked Takashi best. No, I'm really concerned with earthquakes because should one occur near my father's stables, it'd be a real catastrophe for all the horses, Aki protested. Not that I care, but my sister and her geeky boyfriend does. How can you call Tamemura Asuma-san geeky? Nako exclaimed in shock. He's awesome. Don't you know Tanemura-san and Agaki-san were voted most popular couple in Japan? Crossing his arms, Aki replied, they fight all the time. But Tanemura-san truly is everything one could ask for in a boyfriend. He's completely awesome. Almost as awesome as the Kaido magician, Chiharu couldn't help adding, despite the cross expression on Takashi's face. Do you still have nightmares about the phantom, Tomeo-san? Iro asked. Tomeo had sat out on the grass underneath the shade of an oak tree. Tomeo was busily attaching lace to a scarlet doll dress, adjusting it to fit Chibi Sakura during lunch break. Setting the sewing material on her lap, Tomeo hesitated for a moment. Not as frequently these days. Oh, that's a relief, Iro said. From his bag, he took out a small cushion the size of his palm and filled with aromatic potpourri. He handed it to Tomeo. Put this next to your bedside when you asleep. It usually wards against nightmares. Taking the small, fragrant cushion and holding it tightly in her hands, Tomeo replied, Thank you, Iro-kun. Iro smiled. No problem. So, Sakura-san hasn't captured the new dark force yet? Shaking her head, Tomeo replied, No. I heard from Sakura-chan that Meilin-chan was attacked by the dark force also last Friday, so she wasn't able to return to Hong Kong. Then critically she added, I bet you can do something to help them. Why don't you? That will be no fun then, Iro replied. Soupy-chan scowled from Iro's bag at such blatantly Iro-like response. At that moment the ground shook. The scraps of cloth in Tomeo's bag slipped out. The stack of books next to Iro collapsed. There were startled gasps throughout the school. It was worse than the tremor felt a few weeks ago, on the day that the prop chandelier had fallen onto the stage during the star-crossed rehearsal. From the grim expression on Iro's face, Tomeo figured that it was something to be worried about. I reckon something big will happen together. Then she brightened as she exclaimed, More action to videotape then! What was that? Miho exclaimed, looking up from the computer in the journalism classroom at the desks and chairs vibrated and the ground shook. She had been busily typing up a new article describing the students' new project doing volunteer work at the Kenoshi Hospital. The computer screen flickered for a second, then, to her relief, it turned back on. It must be the reverberations from the earthquake somewhere nearby, Kai replied from the other computer, working on the newspaper layouts that were supposed to be due the previous week. Hope it's nothing too serious. Critically, Miho stared at Mizuki Kai. It was the first time she was alone with him since the day before the production, and it was the first time talking to him since the incident at Kenoshi Hospital, which had led to her decision to visit her mother. Though Miho hadn't had a chance to visit her mother again since the first visit, she had so many things to tell her. She'd finally found her brother. It was like a dream, yet so much better because it was real. Grudgingly, Miho had to admit that without Kai, she would have never gathered up the courage to go and visit her mother. If Kai hadn't convinced her to gather courage, she might still be in the same situation as before. She felt a surge of thankfulness in her heart. Kai truly wasn't that bad of a person once you got to know him. Finished. Kai clicked save and leaned back on his chair to stretch. His whole body was sore from being soundly beaten the night before, but the ache was nothing new. Did you get into a fight again, Mizuki-senpai? Miho asked, observing the browning bruise on Kai's cheek and his blistered lip. It was the first time she saw him injured, however.
If you're meaning to give me a lecture on it, I heard plenty enough from Melanie already, Kai said sharply. In fact, he had been meaning to ditch school today, also not wanting to show his bruised face at school. All the teachers would have something to say about it. But Melanie forced him to go, saying that Syaoran was good enough babysitter for her and Sakura.
No, Miho hastily backed up. I guess I just wanted to thank you for what you told me last Thursday. Without your advice, I would have never gathered the confidence to go visit my mother. And I'm so glad I did. So thank you, Mizuki-senpai. And I'm sorry for being so harsh and critical of you previously.
No problem, Tanaka-san. Kai brushed off uncomfortably.
And I was just thinking, Miho continued, you're always calling me Tanaka-san. Nobody does that, at least not my friends. All my friends just call me Miho-chan.
Am I your friend then?
Kai asked, raising an eyebrow. I hope you can be, Mizuki-senpai, Miho said, looking up with appealing gray eyes. Softening, Kai laughed.
Oh, all right. I'll stop calling you Tanaka-san, but you better stop calling me Mizuki-senpai then. Just plain old Kai is fine.
Horrified, Miho exclaimed, but that would not be showing any respect to my elder.
Since when did you have respect for me? Kai pointed out. Besides, you don't address Syaoran or the rest as Lee-senpai, though they're all older than you are.
I knew them since New York, Miho responded. But all I can say is that you better stop calling me Tanaka-san, or else I'll consider it as a sign that you don't want to be friends with me. Grinning, Kai bowed eloquently in his sitting position and replied,
Whatever you wish, Miho-hai.
Miho stared at Kai's bent head before smiling back warmly. I guess if I'm a princess, then you're the knight in shining armor.
Aha, nope.
The princess's court gesture, Kai said, sweeping up a pencil, ruler, eraser, and stapler, and skillfully juggling them over his head before sweeping them up again in one hand.
Dedicated to make Miho-hai laugh.
Clapping in delight, Miho exclaimed, Do that again, with 5 objects.
Hey, you're supposed to be working on your article, unless you want the prince syndrome, referring to Aki, to be on your back, Kai reminded. Yet he took 7 objects and began doing fancy juggling tricks with them. It was a relief to fall into the rhythm of simple routines like juggling because it took his mind off pressing matters to just entertain an enthusiastic audience. After a final round of juggling, he snapped his fingers, and the school objects turned into 7 white roses, which turned into fruit-flavored bonbons that showered down onto Miho. Peeling one of the orange candies and popping it into her mouth, Miho sighed.
You know what, Mizuki-senpai?
Kai grimaced at the honorific.
I'm really thankful to you, and I think you enabled me to find my Oni-chan as well. I think somehow fate was preventing me from finding my brother because I couldn't even take the first step to meet my mother. Then 3 days later, I coincidentally bumped into Oni-chan at an archery competition. You were there. You remember, right?
Yeah.
Funny thing is, Miho continued, when I first met you, I thought that there was this faintest possibility that you might be Makei, Oni-chan, because you seem so round about the right age, though you're a grade lower than my brother should be, but your facial features aren't too different from what McKay's might be like at age 16. But more importantly, there was just a feeling about you that reminded me of something familiar. You can laugh if you want to. Of course, as I got to know you better, I know you possibly couldn't be my brother. Your personality, philosophies, and attitude of life are so different. In fact, you're completely opposite from my brother. I think I was too hopeful of finding my brother and imagined things up. He also hated violence. She gazed at Kai's bruises critically. Especially now that I found my real brother. I know better. Silly of me, huh?
Not really. Anything is possible,
Kai said. Anyway, my point is, I hope to get to know you better, Mizuki-senpai, Miho said. She smiled widely. I can't imagine a more perfect world now that I have both my mother and my brother by my side, not to mention great friends.
Kai grinned lopsidedly. Well, then I gotta go now. Turn off the lights in the classroom when you finish.
Sure, Mizuki-senpai, Miho stated, returning to the article.
Slowly walking down the high hallway, Kai murmured, It's not a perfect world.
After school, Miho rushed out of the gates, waving her arms wildly. Oni-chan! Her brother, dressed casually, was leaning against the gate. He had promised to spend the afternoon with her. Seeing Miho, McKay waved back.
Miho!
You were waiting for me? Miho asked.
Of course. I promised to buy you a snack after your school ended, McKay answered.
Oh, yeah. Where are you staying at again? Iro said that you can come over and stay at our house. It's really huge and everything, Miho said. You remember Iro, right? You met him at the archery competition. He's the one looking after me. Him and Kaho-san, our cousin.
Ruffling her hair, McKay said, Yeah, I remember the person who I am eternally grateful to for looking after my little sister so well all these years. Right now, I'm staying with one of my old friends from Itoko Elementary.
Miho laughed. You really did have many friends back then. Then she asked, hesitant, You are going to stay nearby, right? You're not going away, are you?
I'm staying right here, beside you, McKay reassured. And once Mother regains her health, we'll all live together again. There's the ice cream store. What flavor do you want?
Pausing for a second, Miho replied, Whatever you want, Oni-chan. Soon, Miho was licking a scrumptious-looking chocolate fudge ice cream cone. Guess what, Ni-chan? I'm the assistant editor of Seiju Junior High. Remember how Mother said she used to be the chief editor of her high school paper? Ooh, and I was part of the production that Mother wrote. I was the narrator. On and on Miho went about all the things that had happened to her over the past 5 years, and McKay listened patiently. Every so often Miho glanced up at her brother's face to check that he was really beside her, and not some character conjured up from her dreams.
It's such a drag going around with a kindergarten kid and a stuffed animal, Syaoran grumbled, though not truly meaning harm. It was already late afternoon. You're slowing everything down.
We've been looking for the age all day, and we still haven't found it, Sakura stated, crouching on her short, stubby legs. Being only 5, even a short stroll down to the park seemed like a very long walk.
Syaoran, Kiro, and she had reached King Penguin Park after searching all over Tomato for the age. Though Malin had insisted on coming, Syaoran had convinced her to remain at home because of her leg. "You better find it quickly," Kiro-chan said, who had joined them early that morning. "Luckily, your brother had to spend the night shift at the hospital yesterday night, so he couldn't throw a fit. I bet if you didn't show up today, he's going to personally come find me and throttle the stuffed animal." "Sakura-chan!" Tomato waved, running towards little Sakura, followed by Kai, who came strolling along with a nonchalant expression on his face. Tomato had headed straight to King Penguin Park after school ended, ready with a new outfit and her video camera. Kai had only followed for the sake of laughing at Sakura's small form. In no time, Sakura was dressed in a scarlet dress with a matching cloak and hood. "It's made out of really stretchy material," Tomato stated, "so that when you grow large, it won't rip or tear." "If I grow large again," Sakura said. "Oh, I have a battle outfit for you also," Tomato said to Syaoran, and in no time, Syaoran was dressed in his usual dark green Chinese battle outfit. Then she turned to Kai with sparkling sapphire violet eyes. "No," Kai stated firmly. This made Tomato sigh in disappointment. She had a cool outfit, of course, all in black, prepared for Kai also. Then again, there was always next time. "Wow, it's just like old times." Tomato clapped her hands together when she got over her disappointment. "It's been ages since I made Sakura-chan a battle outfit. Firstly, because of the hectic summer, and then I got possessed by the phantom, and then the production." "You know, what I'm curious about is why you put up with such a large crew in capturing cards, Sakura," Kai commented, staring at Tomato, Kiro, and Syaoran. "I would think it tends to be a nuisance, and it probably slows the whole process down." "Brat number 2, Kiro-chan muttered, crossing his arms. "You've got it all wrong, Kaito-kun," Sakura said. "I wouldn't be able to be called Captor without everyone. It was Kiro-chan who acted as my guardian and mentor all along. Tomato's clothes always give me more confidence, and her effort into making the battle costumes always gives me a protected feeling. And Syaoran. "But more people means that there is the danger and they will be used against you," Kai interrupted. "Is it worth the risk?"
Many times I have worried about endangering my friends. Several times Tomato has been victimized because she is my friend, such as being the target of the voice and most recently the phantom. And there was the one time Ero controlled Syaoran's body with thread to make him attack me." Sakura trailed off. "Yet Sakura-chan has always been able to protect her friends, Kai-kun," Tomato continued. "True, there is more risk when working in a group, yet that much more power is bestowed when one has the support and trust of her friends." Nodding, Sakura finished. "I wouldn't have been able to come up this far without the support of my friends. It is true that it is my fault that they are exposed to danger. That is why I will always do my best to protect them, which is all the more reason to return to my proper age."
"But Sakura, don't you know when you're alone you have nothing to lose?" Kai asked skeptically. Then he bolted in alarm. "Duck!" he called out. Swish! "Something passed by!" Sakura exclaimed. "The age!" Kiro-chan looked around, alert. "How do we capture it?" Tomato asked. "I know. We need something to lure it," Kai said. Someone to lure it. Sakura pondered for a second. Kaito-kun? "No, I am not going to be used as bait to lure the age," Kai replied flat out. Everyone turned to Syaoran. "What? No way!" Syaoran stammered. "I'm not going to be the bait." "Don't worry. It doesn't hurt that much when your body shrinks," Sakura said cheerfully as Kai began tying Syaoran to a tree with a sturdy rope. There's only a brief burning sensation of your limbs being ripped apart.
Untie me at once, Syaoran hollered.
Sticking out her tongue, Sakura said, Swerves you white for ages reversed you to 3 or so after laughing at me so much in this form.
Oh, just wait till I get free, Syaoran shouted, scowling furiously.
This is really priceless, Tomeo said, videotaping Syaoran squirming from his uncomfortable position, tied to the tree.
Shh. Now we have to hide in our positions and wait for the age to fall for the trap, Kai said.
Sakura, Tomeo, Kiro-chan, and Kai crept behind different bushes encircling the center tree which Syaoran was tied to. For minutes, there was no sound. Then there was a swooshing sound and a silver flicker. A hazy form materialized in front of Syaoran, sprinkling a shimmering powder on him.
Now!
Kai leaped down from his position on the tree branch onto the dark forest. Sakura had leapt out from her hiding place also, but fell over because of her short legs. Nonetheless, Kai had landed directly on the dark forest before it could sprinkle the sand of age on him. His hands moved deftly. It looked as if he was tying the age up, yet Sakura couldn't see the rope. Soon the age was tightly tied to another tree trunk. Now they could see that the age took the form of a tiny infant with an innocent face. It held in its left hand a sand clock, and with its right hand sprinkled the sand from the clock onto its victims. The sand of age.
Wow! Amazing!
Tomeo exclaimed. Then she peered at the age. It seemed to be tied against the tree trunk, yet no string or rope was visible.
Oh, what did you tie the age up with, Kai-kun?
Sakura, finally having caught up, carefully stared in between Kai's fingers. In the light, she could catch glimpses of silvery, narrow threads.
Piano string, very strong, almost invisible, used by all magicians, Kai said. But it won't hold the age down for long. Hurry up and seal it.
Okay. Sakura held out her key. Key that hides the power of the stars. Show your true self to me. I, Sakura, command you. Release. Nothing happened. Release! Release! Release!
Oh, what's wrong, Sakura-chan?
Tomeo asked.
At that age, she didn't know she had any special powers,
Syaoran replied, untangling himself from the ropes tying him down to the tree. Since his body had shrank a few years younger, it was easy to loosen himself. They turned around to see Syaoran, whom they had all forgotten about. Sakura's eyes widened to see a scowling boy of 12 or so, the Syaoran she remembered before his leaving Japan. His battle outfit hung loosely on his smaller frame. Sakura became aware of how much he looked like the 15-year-old Syaoran in many aspects, yet the face was somewhat more boyish. He was shorter and more similar to the aggressive Chinese boy that Sakura first encountered 5 years ago, the one who had tried to take away the cloud cards by force. She hadn't been aware how much he had changed over the past years. It was less about aging and looking more mature than the actual expression on his face. Even over the past few months, Syaoran's expression changed from being slightly acidic, wary, and somewhat guarded and cautious to one that was relaxed, animated, and more often, his brilliant amber eyes were laughing and gentle. The boy staying in front of her was the old Syaoran, the mistrustful and reserved one.
Geez, Kai, couldn't you trap the age a little bit faster before it shrank me? Syaoran demanded. I knew this would have happened if you used me as bait. Stupid. I caught it in a hair later just so I could see the high and mighty Syaoran as a toddler, Kai said. But unfortunately, seems to have shrank you only a few years. Bastard. I'll really get you after this business is over, Syaoran muttered, kicking aside the last strand of rope.
Release!
Sakura called out once more, sweat forming on her brows. She panted. I can't do it. I can't release the staff. Remember, I don't have magical powers when I was 10, when I became card mistress.
Hurry, the age is trying to escape, Kai said carefully, not to stand too near the age, who was desperately shaking the sand of age at him, squirming to escape from the piano string. No way would he let his guard down now.
Syaoran, can't you release my staff for me, like you did when I was attacked by the crystal? Sakura pleaded, shaking his head. Syaoran replied, No. That truly was a one-time exception. Anyway, you should know by now that you were born with magic. It didn't suddenly appear out of nowhere when you were 10. You discovered it then, but it's always inside you. Therefore, when you are 5, 10, 15, your power is always within you. Remember? The creep also told you that also. For a second, Sakura stared blankly at Syaoran. The creep? Oh, that's right. Iro told her that her powers were born inside of her. Though my body is smaller and weaker, it still contains the same capacity of power, despite the fact that at this age, my powers were less developed. Suddenly, Sakura cringed. Mental images formed as she recalled a blurry event. What was it? What was she trying to remember? There's a little girl, 5 or so, crying. It's me. Why am I crying? Sakura pondered. Where's Mother? Ni-chan, where's Mother? The little girl asked. A dark-haired boy, around 12 or so, stared up at the blue sky. Up there. Up where? The little girl persisted. Why can't I see her? Doesn't Mommy want to see Sakura-chan anymore? Don't you know? Mother's an angel now. She's always watching over us, our entire family. When you cry, Sakura, Mother has tears in her eyes too. She doesn't like seeing you sad. Yantoya said, patting his little sister's head. Ni-chan's lying. The kids at preschool said there were no such thing as angels. Instinctively, Toya reached out to hug his little sister. Hey, Sakura. I don't need Ni-chan. Little Sakura abruptly pushed her brother's gentle hand away and stepped back. I want Mommy. I don't want Ni-chan. Sakura, Mother's no longer a part of this world, but she told me to tell you that she's always by your side whenever you feel joy or sadness, and she asked me to take her place. Father's very busy, so you can turn to me, Sakura. It's not the same as having a mother, I know, but isn't just Ni-chan good enough? No! Why can't Ni-chan see and talk to Mommy? Why can't I see her? Sakura sobbed. Doesn't Mommy want to talk to me? No, Sakura, it's not like that. Then how come Ni-chan can see her then? Tell me how, so I can see her too. With a far-off expression on his face, Yantoya replied, If you close your eyes and empty your heart, if you take a deep breath and open your mind, and if the warm blood flowing through your veins intertwine with a glowing aura wrought from a profound belief in your heart, then an inner vision is unveiled and you will see the heavenly light. Obediently, little Sakura shut her eyes and took a deep breath in. Her smooth forehead was crinkled from the effort put into concentration. After a while, she burst out, I can't see anything. I did what Ni-chan said and I can't see Mommy. Ni-chan lied to me. You have to be patient, Sakura. Toya sighed, looking much more tired and mature than any other 12-year-old boy. You have the vision within you because you're Mother's daughter, but it might take time and effort to awaken that vision. But I want to see Mommy now. Does she really love me? Is she really watching over me? Her voice was choked with fresh tears. Why can't I see her? I thought it strange that you never cried for Mother before, not even when she first died.
I guess you were holding it within you too, Toya said, his voice sounding worn out. I'm sorry, Sakura, I'm sorry. Recalling that instance, it now stumped Sakura why Toya had apologized. Don't cry, Sakura, don't cry, Toya said in a broken voice as his little sister's sobs grew louder. I miss Mother too. I miss her so much. Yet we must be strong. Father's always smiling for us. Let's not show him that we're in pain, Sakura. Sakura is strong so she could smile for me, right? Right, Sakura? Blinking away the tears from her round eyes to clear her vision, little Sakura stared at her brother. She could glimpse tears in her brother's midnight blue eyes. For a second she hesitated before throwing her chubby arms around her brother's neck. As she sobbed into her brother's warm embrace, she could only call out, Ni-chan! Ni-chan! Holding his fragile baby sister in his arms, young Toya let silent tears stream down his cheeks, dropping onto Sakura's golden brown head. Earth to it, Sakura! Syaoran said, bending over and peering at Sakura's face, which had a stunned, melancholy expression, uncanny coming from a 5-year-old face. Hurry up and seal the age! But if she can't release the staff thingy, Kai trailed off. If I close my eyes and empty my heart, if I take a deep breath and open my mind, if the warm blood flowing through my veins intertwine with a glowing aura wrought from a profound belief in my heart, then an inner vision is unveiled, and I will see a heavenly light. Staring at the dusky twilight sky, Sakura smiled. Oni-chan, I finally understand the meaning of those words. Release! With the same ease as usual, little Sakura released her staff. This time, the pink staff was slightly shorter and lighter than usual to match a child's strength. Spirit of Dark Forces, I, Sakura, command you. We turn to new shape a contract. Sakura card! The age materialized and turned into a card. Now I can finally return to my real age, Sakura said. Transform me first, Syaoran said, tapping his feet impatiently. Amazing. Sakura has such power submerged inside at such an early age. If she had started training as early as he did. Okay, age, revert Syaoran back to his actual age, Sakura commanded. Instantly, Syaoran reverted to his actual age. There, that feels so much better, Syaoran stated as his limbs grew and fitted back perfectly into his battle outfit. Not much difference, Kiro-chan muttered, especially in mentality. Not so much difference? With full force, Syaoran kicked Kiro-chan into the air and called out, Don't you know what I went through the Lee Clan nightmare training while I was in Hong Kong? I have confidence that I grew at least twice as strong as before. That's a big difference. Kiro-chan, oh, well, now myself. Sakura struck her staff down on the age once more. Nothing happened. Hui! I'm stuck like this forever! Don't panic, Sakura-chan. Let's go back to the Lee apartment and try transforming Meilin first, Tomeo said. Okay, Syaoran said with an ill-concealed, merry expression, picked up little Sakura to carry her back to the apartment. Sadist, Sakura grumbled. You take pleasure in my distress. But I've always wanted a younger sibling, Syaoran said, and you can't blame me for your own inability to convert yourself to your own proper age. Sadist. Sakura stuck out her tongue. Sticking out his own tongue, Syaoran replied, Revenge for standing me up for how many hours last Sunday? Sakura was left to gape. for the action and the words were so unlike what one would expect from Syaoran. Then she grinned. She deserved this baby treatment.
I can't tell him, Malin muttered in her sleep. I really can't.
Mei Wen-chan, wake up! We sealed the age! Sakura exclaimed as they all returned to Syaoran's apartment.
Malin woke up drowsily. She had been sleeping the entire day, yet her head pounded.
Oh, really?
Malin, what's wrong with you? Syaoran exclaimed, bending over in concern. His cousin's face was unusually red, and her eyes were unfocused. Feeling Malin's forehead, Tomeo said,
Oh, Malin-chan's feverish.
Comes from being locked up in a chilly basement for 3 days without proper drink or food, Kai said. Hurry, revert her back to original age. That'll give her more strength to fight sickness, Syaoran said, feeling Malin's forehead for himself. It was burning. He'd been too busy worrying about capturing the age and hadn't checked on how Malin was doing for the entire day. It was his mistake to leave her all alone.
Age, revert Mei Wen to her actual age, Sakura commanded once more, and the little infant creature came out and sprinkled the sand of time on Malin.
Staring up with her 15-year-old face, Malin smiled. Thanks, Sakura. Sorry for causing so much trouble.
No, Sakura said. I'm so sorry all this happened to you. Well, the card seems to work for Malin. Oh, I wonder why it won't work for Sakura-chan, Tomeo said.
It's okay. We can carry out our plan and adopt 5-year-old Sakura, Kai said cheerfully.
That joke lost favor 5 days ago, Sakura snapped. This is serious.
I think something's holding you back at that age, Syaoran said.
Hui?
Seeing that all 3 of us reverted into different ages, I think the age strategically chose which age to revert us into, Syaoran exclaimed.
What do you mean? Kiro-chan asked.
I get what Syaoran's saying, Malin said, smiling crookedly despite her flushed face. I just remembered, in my 9-year-old self, when Syaoran first became the chosen one, I didn't want him to become the chosen one, because I knew that would take him far from me. Until then, we had always grown up together. But when he trained to be the chosen one, they sent him off to far-off places and eventually to Japan, and I lost him. He was already in a different zone, so far from me. I was all alone. Then I recalled. Her head had been nodding as she said this, and finally, she toppled over on the pillow.
Mei Wen-chan!
Sakura exclaimed as Malin's breathing grew faster, and a faint voice continued. She continued, I followed him, and I learned so many new things. For a moment, she was silent.
Mei Wen-chan, are you okay?
Sakura asked. My head, Malin groaned. It hurts so much. I'm sorry, Malin, I'm sorry, Syaoran whispered, stroking Malin's damp head. Syaoran, Malin called out weakly. I have to tell you something. Shh, you can tell me later. Rest now, Syaoran said. He beckoned the others to leave the room to let Malin rest. I never thought that girl would get sick, Kai commented. But she's just putting on a show to get sympathy. Syaoran glared at Kai. Don't say that when you can see how much Malin's suffering. She's usually very healthy, which is why it's all the more serious when she does get sick. Sheesh, you're always so protective and touchy about your cousin, Kai grumbled. But when it comes down to it, you're the one who's hurt her and made her suffer the most. You bastard! Syaoran knocked Kai to the ground, raising his fist to punch Kai hard. Over the rim of his glasses, Kai stared at Syaoran plaintively. Do I speak anything untrue? When Syaoran hesitated, he reiterated, Well, do I?
Oh, please don't fight, Tomeo said. Consider Sakura-chan's case right now. If she doesn't go home this evening, her brother would be infuriated, to put things mildly. Oh, Ni-chan, Sakura muttered. That's it. Something's holding me back at this age. Something unresolved from when I was 5. Something that's been bothering me in the bottom of my heart. What is it? Tomeo asked. Shutting her eyes, Sakura said, Until I was 5, I merely thought that my mother was away on a journey. I did not understand the concept of death until I entered preschool. Then I was hurt. So hurt because I finally understood what it meant not to have a mother. My brother also took me to preschool and picked me up when it ended. My father packed my lunch. So I did not miss mother until I saw the other mothers and all the children. Yet I never said anything. I never complained to my father because he was always smiling for Oni-chan and me. Just once I broke down. I don't know the exact cause, but that one time I cried and cried. When my brother tried to comfort me, I told him that I did not need him, and that time I did not know how much he sacrificed for me, and I was ungrateful. Since he was always having to look after me and handle household chores, he couldn't even make many friends and hang out with other people after school. Yet I did not appreciate him and said many hasty, ignorant, regrettable things to him when he was trying his best as a brother to look after me. And that's the one time I saw Nietzsche with tears in his eyes. He never cried in front of me before, not even when mother died. Yet just once I saw him break down in front of me. Never since then has he cried in front of me. But since then I regretted saying such harsh words to him, though over time I forgot about it.
So, you're being held back at age 5 because you feel guilty and you wanted to apologize?
Tomeo said.
I think so,
Sakura said, wondering when she had forgotten this particular memory. Yes, she had tried her best to repress it because she felt so guilty afterwards at that young age. So she had continuously repeated to herself that her big brother was mean, bossy, and annoying. How silly of you, Kai exclaimed. It's not too late to tell him that. It's not like he disappeared for years like Miho's idiotic brother. He's always been right beside you all these years, and yet I bet he knows how much you appreciate him, even if you two always have those sibling squabbles. You don't have to say so much in words because you can still understand each other. That's a family bond, you know. There's no reason to be held back by law passed by guilt. Think how bad you might feel if he disappeared suddenly one day. After all, I think you realized your brother's worth, especially these last few months that he spent away in England.
You're right, Kaido-kun.
With confidence, Sakura took out her staff.
I'm glad I remember this sort of memory, as guilty as I feel, but I can correct past mistakes. There's no reason to be caught up in it, and I don't want to stray as you guys waiting anymore.
Aw, I wish you would stay in that form, Syaoran sighed to himself. Ignoring him, Sakura commanded once more.
Age! Return me to my actual age!
With a poof of smoke, Sakura's limbs stretched out and returned to her 15-year-old self. Whoa, sexy outfit, Kai whistled. Oh, shut up, Sakura exclaimed, blushing. True to Tomeo's words, her scarlet outfit had stretched out marvelously to fit her 15-year-old body, yet it was extremely tight and short in all aspects. Still, it felt good to look at all her friends level in the eye again.
Hey, Syaoran, do you know why you were reverted to 12 years old?
Sakura asked. Secret, Syaoran replied, smiling.
Not fair. You never tell me anything.
Sakura took off her crimson cloak, which was half choking her because the ribbon tying it around her neck wasn't stretchable. Now that she was back to her regular age, now what? Should she apologize to Syaoran for the incident last Sunday? For not appearing at the meeting place on time?
Well, I'm going home. My family must be worrying. Thanks, Syaoran, for letting me stay overnight, Sakura said. Tell Meilin to feel better. And Kai, thanks for your surprising words of wisdom. She ran out of the house, stuffing her feet into her boots prepared by Tomeo. Hurry, let's go, Kiro-chan. Tomeo, Kai, and Syaoran stared at Sakura rushing out of the house, shoes half on. Sakura had forgotten to change out of her tight scarlet dress. Why did I revert to 12? Syaoran mused. Because that's when I had the greatest dilemma of my life. When the elders asked me to return to Hong Kong. I did not want to leave you. Yet I made the mistake of returning anyway, unable to disobey their orders. And I almost made the biggest mistake of my life. And I will never repeat such a mistake again. Never. So here I have returned to be by your side. And I plan to stay by your side from now on. Come what may. Kaiju, where you been? Toy exclaimed as he added another plate to the dining table. Then his eyes scanned Sakura's outfit up and down. Now, where did you get that scandalous dress? Tomeo-chan made it for me, Sakura said, not untruthfully. That makes more sense than it doesn't. Well, hurry up. Dinner's getting cold. Father's eating out with his colleagues, so you have to do the dishes today. Hey, why are you staring at me with those eyes? You caused trouble, didn't you? Or you need to borrow money?
Ni-chan, have you seen Mother lately? Sakura asked, sitting down on the kitchen stool and leaning on the counter.
No, not these days. I haven't seen her frequently since I entered high school. You know that.
Do you still miss her?
Why?
Thinking about it, she died when I was too young for me to really miss her because I don't remember that many things about her. Yet you must remember so many things about Mother. Toya stared at his little sister blankly. I remember. Long ago, when I was 5 and you were in 6th grade, I cried so much because I missed Mother. I was crying so hard, and you tried to cheer me up.
Toya asked absent-mindedly. Get the plate from the cabinet, will you?
After that incident, I didn't mind not having a mother because I had an Oni-chan, Sakura continued, as if Toya was paying the fullest attention to her words.
You really caused something big, didn't you? Toya said teasingly.
As Sakura busied herself with setting the table, his face became somber. He didn't know that Sakura still remembered that certain incident. It was one memory he preferred her to forget, the only time he had truly let his mask of brotherly composure slip away. He still recalled holding his fragile baby sister in his arms, with silent tears streaming down his cheeks, dropping onto Sakura's golden brown head. It was the only time he had ever let tears escape in front of her. Even then, he knew he mustn't break down for his sister's sake. Yet, I bet she doesn't remember afterwards. He had stared up in surprise as he felt a third pair of arms reach out to embrace them. Mother, he whispered. She's watching over us right now, Sakura. Little Sakura murmured, I'm sorry because I made Nietzsche cry. I'll never be a bad girl again. But I wish so much that I could see Mother one more time. Look, Sakura, look hard enough, he told her. Not with your eyes, but with your mind. You're Mother's daughter, so you'll be able to see. But I can't see. Sakura was a good girl, but I can't see, Sakura said, staring in vain. She's stroking your hair right now, he murmured.
Will we?
Really?
I believe you, Nichan. I believe Nichan,
Sakura said as her tears completely ceased and a small smile played on her lips. Then her green eyes widened. Mommy?
Hey, Maylin, Syaoran said, placing a cool towel on his cousin's burning forehead. Sakura and the others returned home. I called away to let him know you're safe. You're going to stay until your leg gets better, so rest well and gain strength, okay?
Oh, Syaoran, Maylin moaned, tossing in her bed. Syaoran.
Shh, I'll leave you now. Sleep now. Guy's frantically worried right now.
Syaoran forced a smile.
Funny guy, isn't he? Seems to think it's his fault.
Quietly, he turned off the lights and left the room, shutting the door.
Has Maylin's fever gone down yet? Kai asked, slouching down on the Lee living room sofa. I think it's getting higher. Her leg's starting to swell up and ache again also, Syaoran said. It seems to be more serious break than I had anticipated, probably from having been untreated for 3 days. I'll take her to the hospital tomorrow, Kai said. No, it's okay. I can take her, Syaoran replied hastily. No, let me, Kai insisted. It's my fault that she's sick anyway. If I took her to the airport, she wouldn't have fallen into the hands of a dark force. You seem to harbor some special feelings for my cousin, Syaoran said half-jokingly.
Smiling queerly, Kai replied,
It's because I understand her better than any of you. Weirdo, Syaoran muttered. How is that possible? Hey, you look like you need some rest, Kai said. I'll nurse Maylin for a while. Are you sure?
Kai gave a thumbs up and entered the room.
Payback time for eating off your kitchen all the time.
Throughout the night, Maylin had a reoccurring dream about her childhood. Several times she woke up in the night to see through blurred vision a straight figure sitting by her bedside, staring down at her with gleaming, inscrutable eyes. Then she would fall back into her surrealistic dream state, which often reverted to a vivid replay of her past. After our cousin Li Lian's disappearance, Syaoran became a different person. At the time, we were 9 years old. Though he naturally was a cold, reserved person, he at least was kind to me and careful to humor all my tempers. Most members of the Li clan ignored me and paid little heed to me because I have no magic powers, yet Syaoran was always patient and encouraging of me. Yet, after the news that Lian had died, a chilling fury seemed to burn in his eyes as he stated boldly to the elders that he planned on becoming the chosen one of the Li clan. They warned him that it was a near impossible task, that one so young, weak, and inexperienced as he had little chance of even surviving the test of worthiness or the chosen one, and after that, endeavoring in all the ordeals and challenges that the representative of the Li clan would have to face. Syaoran, please don't go through the ordeal of the chosen one. Don't go to Japan to collect the cloud cards. Let the elders send someone older, more experienced, I pleaded, Syaoran. Naively, I thought he would listen to me, though he wouldn't listen to any of the adults. Though Syaoran usually entertained all my whims, this time he was cold and grave, and never before had I heard such a fervent, determined ring in his voice. Maylin, don't you see? This is the first time I ever felt I wanted to accomplish something. This is the first time I really wanted to sweat and bleed for a goal. I too know that I am yet ignorant and uninitiated, with so much more to learn. Yet, I know I was born to be the chosen one. I know that I can survive the test. So out of all people, I want you to wish me luck, Maylin. I will make the Lee clan proud of me and honor my family. At those words, I could only nod. I couldn't argue or cry, for Syaoran was so sincere. I could not oppose him. I think it was as I watched 10-year-old Syaoran pack his bags and leave for the airport to Japan that I received the dreading feeling that Syaoran, by becoming the chosen one, was lost to me forever, though I refused to accept it. Syaoran! Maylin sat up on her bed, squinting. Sunlight was pouring into the bedroom. It took her a second to remember that she was 15 years old and in Syaoran's apartment in Japan, not a 9 or 10-year-old yearning for Syaoran to not become the chosen one. Her right leg was throbbing again, but her fever seemed better after sleeping deeply. Then her eyes flickered to the figure sitting by her bed, straight-backed, and not having moved an inch the entire night. Her heart gave a thump. You've been calling out his name all night, Kai said with a grim expression, to the point that I was about to tape your mouth shut, despite my reluctance to molest a sick person. But luckily, you began to say some very interesting stuff in your sleep, and I restrained. Have you been sitting there the entire night? Maylin asked, ignoring Kai's dripping sarcasm. Her heart sank, wondering how much Kai had learned from her sleep talk. Where's Syaoran? I told him to go to school. I'm going to take you to the hospital once you fully wake up. Here, eat the breakfast that Syaoran prepared for you. On the nightstand was a tray with steaming porridge and hot tea. So, what can't you tell Syaoran? Kai said, propping his chin on his hand as he watched Maylin eat. You were saying such nonsense last time also, before you were supposed to leave to Hong Kong. What happened to the pretty silver locket that you always wear around your neck? Maylin asked, staring at Kai's bare throat. The one that Syaoran and the Sakura went into so much trouble over the summer? I don't know. Maybe I lost it, Kai said sharply. I thought it so important to you that you couldn't throw it away, even back when the Hong Kong police force attached a locating microchip to it. Now you simply lost it? Why don't you answer my question first, instead of avoiding it? Kai replied smoothly. Shaking her head, Maylin stared at the golden cream flakes in the bowl. Why was this aggravating person left to badger her? Why couldn't Syaoran be by her side right now? Syaoran wanted to stay and nurse you, but I told him that I needed to find something out from you because that something was bothering you deeply, and I know you would never tell him, so he agreed to leave you under my care, very reluctantly, Kai explained as if reading her mind. So, I will find out what's on your mind. Sorry, Kai. Thanks for your concern, but it's not related to you. So, I'd rather keep it myself, Maylin said stiffly. Fine. For now. With a bright smile, Kai took the empty tray from Maylin's lap.
Okay, to the lovely hospital we go. Ugh, Malin moaned.
Though I might be grateful for your ardent care one day, right now I wish Kaido Magician was locked behind bars. Sakura-chan, you came to school today? We thought you were sick or something, Nako said, glancing sideways at Syaoran, who was stooped over his seat in homeroom class.
What's wrong with Lee-kun? Aki asked. We have after-school volunteer work at the hospital today. Don't tell me you're already tired. Malin is sick, so I spent all night nursing her, Syaoran muttered.
Actually, he and Kai had taken shifts doing so. Believe it or not, he was immensely grateful to Kai at the moment. While he had been too shameful to admit that he had dozed off several times in the nighttime, Kai had stayed awake throughout the entire long interval without sleeping at all. Being a former thief, therefore completely nocturnal, did come in handy sometimes. Where's Kai-kun? Sakura asked.
He took Malin to the hospital,
Syaoran replied. I've never seen Malin so sick before. She's always so healthy and energetic, Sakura said.
Yeah, she rarely gets sick.
Sighing, Syaoran stared out the window, and rarely did Malin get so troubled and tormented from some nagging knowledge, though he knew not what. After school ended, the journalism club crew headed off to the hospital. It was torture for Syaoran to work in the office with Erika under Toya. Absent-mindedly, Syaoran filed documents alphabetically. He was puzzled why the age had attacked Malin, who had locked her up in the basement of some random rundown building, not to mention why. After all, Malin had no magical powers and posed no threat to anyone, especially not the Dark Ones, even less than Tomeo. Another thing that puzzled him was why Malin seemed so absent-minded and vague during her entire visit to Japan. It was as if she was hiding something from him. Her whole excuse about skipping her school trip to Shanghai to visit him was suspicious. The Dark Ones confused him as well. After the magnanimous fate, the age was such an unexpected dark force, as if it were some kind of diversion. It worried him that the wave and the riddle were still loose. Most of all, he was worried about his next-door neighbor, Mizuki Kai. By now, he had no doubt about Kai's good intentions. Yet, the missing pieces didn't fit together, and it did Kai no good that he managed to be indiscernible as a sphinx. On top of that, he still hadn't sorted out old misunderstandings with Sakura. Brat, don't daydream. This is a hospital, and we have urgent work to finish, especially because of those civilian injuries resulting from the recent earthquakes, Toya berated. After you finish with the files, photocopy 20 copies of this patient's chart. Chainsaw, please work a little bit faster. Even the brat works twice your rate. Dictator, Syaoran mumbled once Toya left the office. I know, Erika said. One would think someone as handsome as he would have a better temper.
Ron, Syaoran said. He is a complete tyrant.
Well, better than working in the playroom full of bratty, screaming children, Erika stated, stretching. Filing documents was the most boring work ever.
True,
Syaoran said, almost smiling. Erika was so much better company when she was void of all her silly pretenses and loftiness. Speaking of the children's playroom, I wonder how Mizuki-kun is doing, Erika said, stifling a giggle. It served that nasty thief right if he was having a miserable time. Oh, shut up, Kai hollered, plugging his fingers into each ear. Though he had skipped school that day, he still, unwisely, showed up for the volunteer work. After bringing Mei Lin, he had stayed on at the Kenoshi Hospital the entire day. Children of all ages were screaming and shouting and running around and around and around and around in the colorfully decorated playroom. They were throwing toys at each other, jumping on each other. It was hard to believe that they were actually patients. Most of the truly ill children stayed in their rooms. All the noisy troublemakers at the hospital were gathered in that room. I said, shut up, you little Kai shouted one more time. Immediately, the children halted. Several of the younger ones plopped on the ground and began howling, while the older ones stared up at Kai with new reverence. Goodness, what is going on in here? Toya, who had came to inspect because of the noise level, exclaimed, Mizuki-san, please tell me what you have been doing. Why are these children crying on the floor? Nisan, he's scary, cried one of the little girls, hanging onto Toya's leg and pointing at Kai, who had his arms crossed and he was glaring at the children over the bridge of his sunglasses. As I would expect from Kai, came a laughing voice. Thanking the nurse who had pushed her wheelchair into the playroom, Mei Lin wheeled herself in. Mei Lin, what are you doing out of bed? Kai asked. The doctor said my temperature went down a lot. They finished casting my foot, too. See? From her sitting position, Mei Lin stuck out her right foot, plastered up to her knee. I was so restless, so I asked if someone could wheel me down to the playroom. To come and torment me, Kai grumbled. Tell me, does a 15-year-old patient belong in a children's playroom? I came to play with the ever-so-cordial Candy Striper. Mei Lin chuckled. Ooh, who's the pretty Nisan? The little girl who clung to Toya's leg. Is she the big, mean, scary Ni-chan's girlfriend? Whose girlfriend, you little snot? Mei Lin exclaimed furiously. Ah! She's even scarier! The girl burst out crying all over again. Sighing, Toya left the room. Maybe it wasn't a good idea to assign that delinquent-like personnel to the children's playroom. After the playroom hours ended, Kai wheeled Mei Lin back to her room in the west wing part of the hospital. Hey, how long do you have to stay in the hospital? Kai asked. A few days, Mei Lin replied. The doctor said my leg bone broke pretty severely, and since it was left untreated for a few days, it got infected. It'll take around a month to heal, and he said, and I'm released from the hospital. I'll probably have to stay at Syaoran's for another month, and causing so much trouble as usual. You, out of all people, must know that Syaoran really likes having you around, believe it or not. He just worries a lot, that's all, Kai said. Mei Lin sighed. I'm so tired. I want to run around instead of have my foot stuck in a cast. So, Mei Lin, Kai stopped the wheelchair. What is it that you can't tell Syaoran? What are you talking about? Mei Lin tried to wiggle her right foot toes and found it impossible. Kai's persistence was amazing. In your delirious sleep, you kept muttering that you can't tell him. And I presume that the him is Syaoran. What is it? It must be very significant, disturbing thing that you can't even tell your own cousin about. I told you it's none of your business, Mei Lin said. It's nothing important. You were never good at lying, Kai said, half chuckling. You can feel free to tell me, you know. I think you won't get well
unless you get the stress off your mind.
I can't say it. I can't say it even to you, though I want to, Malin said. Kai, take me to my room. My head hurts. The nurse scolded Kai as she tucked Malin back into bed. You're not supposed to give patients mental stress. See? Lee-san's temperature went up again.
Sakura, we're finished for the day, Aeron said, his golden brown eyes glimmering with amusement. Though the age hadn't exactly produced the effects he had desired, it still had been interesting. From now on, things would become even more foiled and interesting, and certain cocky beings would be humbled.
Hoi? Sakura had been leaning dumbly against the wall of their last patient's room. It occurred to her that now she returned to her proper age, it was time that she repaid her debt to Syaoran. For the last several Sundays, she had avoided meeting Syaoran for this reason and that reason, yet it was true that she was deeply grateful for Syaoran's generosity in letting her stay at his apartment over the summer, and she wanted to express it to him.
Takashiro-san said we are dismissed, Aeron replied.
Sorry. Sakura stood up straight. It's more fun working at the hospital than we anticipated, isn't it, Aeron-kun? Especially since Yukito-san is so nice when we go around from each patient room. Smiling slightly, Aeron replied,
But I still detest hospitals.
Oh? Sakura was stumped.
It's still a pleasure to work side by side with you, though, Aeron reassured. Look, isn't that Miho and her brother?
Brother? Sakura was startled. Then she strained her eyes down the hallway, then called out, Miho-chan! Sakura-chan! It's been a long time since I saw you, Miho exclaimed. Quietly she added, I see you've returned back to normal, Sakura.
Miho, don't run down around the hospital like that. It's not good manners, her brother scolded, panting after her. To Sakura and Aeron, he bowed, then smiled. Nice to meet you.
Oni-chan and I were going to meet Mother today, Miho said. We were going to surprise her. She doesn't know that Oni-chan is back yet. But Mother was sleeping, so we didn't wake her. We'll have to come back another day. Oni-chan really wants to surprise her. After all, a few days wouldn't matter after 5 years. Miho pretended to glare at her brother, who just pulled her nose.
Well, Miho, let's go eat dinner now, McKay said. Where do you want to eat? Chinese? Italian?
Well, see you two later, Miho said. Oh yeah, you can tell Iro that I'm eating dinner with Ni-chan. I think he's still stuck supervising in the elderly patient's lobby area.
Hope we meet again,
McKay said, bowing. Sakura took this moment to stare at the perfect-mannered McKay with his cloudless gray eye and his cordial smile, far different from her own brooding brother, who often had a dark, somber expression on his face and indiscernible midnight blue eyes. Watching Miho and McKay leave, Aeron commented,
Miho looks very happy, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does, Sakura stammered. Aeron! Erika waved, running down the hallway in a very un-Erika-like manner and grabbing her twin's arm. Oh, please save me. I can't stand this place another second. Chuckling, Aeron said,
What is it now? That brother of Sakura's is bossy to the point that Erika looks like an angel in comparison, Syaoran muttered.
Don't insult Oni-chan, Sakura retorted, hands on her hips.
You're the one who called him a bossy tyrant from the beginning, Syaoran exclaimed. Who's insulting me? Toya asked, emerging from the office. Is it the brat? All four of them jumped guiltily. Ugh, no wonder they say his sixth sense is uncanny, Erika muttered.
After their working hours had ended, Sakura and Syaoran were finally able to visit Maylin's room. Her plastered leg was slung up, and she was in the middle of verbally attacking Kai when they entered the room. "Hey, Maylin-chan, are you feeling better?" Sakura asked, handing a box of bonbons to Maylin. Seeing Maylin so heatedly arguing with Kai was an indication that she was. "Yep, heaps better," Maylin replied. "Hey, sign my cast."
"Hey, Maylin, have I already told you about how Sakura stood up Syaoran for 10 hours? Kai stated loudly.
"When did it increase to 10 hours? Sakura demanded. "It was only 6.
"Only 6! Syaoran crossed his arms. "Only 6?
That's not what I meant," Sakura stammered. I'm really...
"Don't tell me you're busy again this Sunday," Syaoran said in exasperation.
"Well, the truth is,
After standing me up for more than 6 hours, I wouldn't say anything usually, but you have to admit that was a little extreme. Don't you agree?"
Sakura was cut short.
"And your excuse was you were spending the day with your brother and Yukito-san, eating good food and watching a movie," Syaoran ranted on.
"Well, I really was... Hoi!" Sakura lifted her hands up in surrender. "I've got to tell him. I really have to apologize and ask him if he's free this Sunday, but I just can't. Not when he's this angry."
"Therefore, you will meet me this Sunday, 7 a.m. sharp," Syaoran concluded.
"Hoi? What? Did he just ask me out?"
"You better not be late this time."
Finally, Sakura regained her voice. "As if I was ever late besides that one time. Don't you remember back in Tokyo? We had to meet at the Italian restaurant and you came late that time and..."
You guys go argue outside. This is a patient's room."
Kai shoved the two out the door and shut it tightly.
"Whew, what a noisy twosome."
At this, Maylin chuckled. "Kai, you act like you're so old sometimes when you're not."
"I wonder if those two will ever reconcile."
Casually, Kai sat on the foot of Maylin's bed.
Yet, overall, things still are looking better for those two.
"You should stop worrying about others' love affairs and worry about your own problems," Maylin said. Then she grinned. "Those two have gotten closer. I'm glad to see." "That's why I can't." Her face fell.
"That's why you can't tell? Please continue," Kai urged. The feverish, desperate look came over Maylin's eyes again.
"Syaoran's been trying so hard. He put aside everything to be here with Sakura. Things are finally going well for him now. I don't want to ruin his happiness." Sitting tensely at the edge of the bed, Kai waited for Maylin to continue. From her expression, he knew she dreaded to speak on. There was an uneasy silence in the room.
"Is it relating directly to Syaoran? Is that why you can't tell him?"
"He's tried so hard. He gave all he had to become the Lee clan's chosen one. You don't know what kind of training he went under," Maylin said. "He really cares about bringing his family honor."
"What does this have to do with what you're trying to say?" Kai asked, bracing himself. "I've trusted you before. Now you can trust me to listen before you eat your heart away."
He was so proud that he became the successor to his father's title. Maylin stared up at Kai's eyes. "You don't understand what I'm saying, do you? What do you know about belonging to a family, a clan as large and prominent as the Lees?"
"I understand a lot more than you think, homeless as I may be," Kai replied tightly. And I know even better that you're going to drive yourself crazy if you don't let out the so terrible secret.
Yet at this point, he knew Mei Lin would continue whatever he said. I know he cares deeply for Sakura, that he will never want to leave her, not now that the Dark Ones are at the peak of their power. I know he's been struggling between family honor and his own desire to stay by Sakura's side. She slipped her trembling hands underneath her blanket to conceal from Kai that she was in a nervous wreck. Not that it was any use. With a deep frown on his brows, Kai listened intently. To his annoyance, his palms were sweaty from anxiety. Drawing in a deep breath, Mei Lin continued. That's why I can't tell him that the League Council has voted to remove him as the chosen one if he doesn't return to Hong Kong immediately.